Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. Rabbir firli. My Lord, forgive me. A'udhu billah shaitan rajim. My Lord, protect me from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Okay. So, welcome everybody. I didn't know how to kind of put a single picture in the back without the camera, but anyways, I shared this picture of this peaceful mountain. I find myself in this moment curious about something that I have spoken about in many lectures, and I don't know how to compare myself to humanity to tell you what kind of human being I am, but I'm a human being that pretty much looked at life and was like, okay, it's like an information processing game, and the information can be classed into three categories. So I'm like a being in this world, reality, and I'm like, okay, there's of information I can get here. There's information from how reality is happening now, the present. There's information I can access and get, which is about how reality happened in the past. And there's also information that is more in the domain of kind of visualization of what could be. So, sorry about that, to get back to it. So, I'm like this human being, right, that opened his eyes in this world and saw content. And I'm like, okay, let me organize it in what's happening now, the information from the present, history in regards to information from the past, what happened before, and again, an ability to visualize the future. So, the most kind of immediate task that appeared to me as a human being was to, in some sense, understand life. I think deep down we all know we're alive to just understand things more. And so this world began having three categories for me. This model worked for me. And so I went on this journey to, in some sense, try to understand. That means if somebody says, like, yo, man, what made you learn history? I'm like, it was just fascinating to kind of know how human beings looked at the world before I was born. It's interesting to kind of see and talk to people and see how human beings look at the world now. And it's even more fascinating after you've looked at the data of the past and the present to wonder about, in some sense, how will the future arrive? We have this attitude from past, present, future. This is traditional time thinking. But the title of this episode is saying the future generations are watching us right now. And I wanted to title it as a question: what if the future generations are watching us right now, or were watching us right now? But technically, that wouldn't make sense because they're in the future. But anyways, it's hard to put it in language. But anyways, so it became interesting to me to wonder about how there was a value in the past, how there is a value in the present, and there's going to be a value in the future. But if the value in the future was present now, how would it value its past? So it's this bizarre ability of the human mind to wonder, if its future self was here right now, how would it judge itself? You know, I think about it. The human mind gives you a capability to acknowledge different things, right? Like, for example, your mind can fathom fighting others, but your mind can also fathom fighting an opponent like yourself, right? So the mind gives an ability to wonder what sort of humans in the future, or how humans in the future would see us now. Now, if someone says, like, yo, man, yo, Mr. Within, is it like as intense as all the unborn beings and humans and souls, in the future, like they're watching you right now? So, like, what does that intensity feel like, as if being stared down by the future? Do you know, in life, ultimately what the moment is a value that can move, and how a being moves is how they animate in reality, and how you animate is the greater expression of your value system. So this is all leading to that interesting moment where we need to ask ourselves, Like, let me say it this way. If I tell you, imagine like Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Like standing in front of you, you probably can do that. And it's easier for you if you've seen the movie, right? But you can visualize, and it's easier for the mind to recreate the past in accordance to the chunks of the past that were kept accurately. Like, are we all forgetting that this whole, when I say life is an informational processing kind of endeavor, what information processing means in some sense is looking at the world and wondering what was put in it and what is it actually. For example, when I see a car, that's something that's, it was put in the world. But when I see mountains, they are extensions of the planet. Do you see? That means it's kind of bizarre. It's like when we look at the sky, do we say we just see clouds, or do we say we see like each individual cloud has an identity and personality and all of this? You know what I mean? So I started having a relationship with the date of information. Okay. And if somebody says, hey, so you're telling me you as a human somehow accessed all the information of the past and the present and were convinced that that information was enough to then go think about the information of the future. And I'll be like, believe it or not, yeah. But it's not that I have access to all knowledge. I have access to the nature of reality, which we all do. And through my direct experience of what is looking through my eyes, you see, the human being is surrounded by mystery. Imagine around you, like, okay, let me say it this way. This is a cool way to say it. Imagine a human being is born and suddenly they access this site and they could see how many problems there are around them. So imagine right now you are a candle flame in a dark room, and all the moths being attracted to that candle flame are kind of like all the problems in life that a being has to. I'm saying if you were surrounded by problems, you would have to wonder about the value of an ultimate answer. You see, first of all, we have to correct our context. The correct context of view is that right now you're listening to a human being, you're listening to one member of a species in this world setting, okay, in a specific world room, and it's as if like we're organisms on a rock, like moving in space, like we have this view, okay, but we are simultaneously agents that can be conscious of the administration of the system. That means it's as if like, why was man created to notice this information? The information of the world is too unique. Just the possibility, like, we all are living in a civilization identity oriented, but you don't know, you actually have a comfort with your own awareness prior to your identity. Your identity is an add-on. Tony Stark wore the Iron Man suit. Right now, who you're speaking to is an Iron Man suit. I'm using the Iron Man suit, Mr. Within, for example. And then there's another Iron Man suit inside, which is my name. And then there's another Iron Man suit inside of that, which is my eyes, my biological eyes, my biological body. And then what is my biological body a Iron Man suit of? And once you truly wonder about reality, if you want to know you've done it correctly, you should get scared. This is how I know a human being has noticed really the situation on earth, that you should feel not a fear because of we can't do anything about it, but a fear because of how overwhelming the situation is, right? That means, do you know how like they show these scenes like where like this country is being bombed and the bomb's about to hit the house, and the child's like, what's happening, and the child's crying, and the father just says what I think it's Plato's white lie, right? The father says a white lie to the kid, nothing son, just hug me and close your eyes. You know what I mean? And acts as a shield for the child. Intense. Anyways, sorry guys, I was just pushed into deep thought for a moment. What if the future generations were watching us right now? How would we feel? And what if you just apply this to the four levels of reality? What if your most advanced self was watching you right now from the future? What if your most advanced species, was watching you from the future? What if the most advanced world was watching this world from the future? And what if the most advanced was watching it all? How would you live in such a world, right? That means the story that you consider that is your world is very important. And you have to also consider, I call this the sort of black sheep theory, which means that the major consensus is it's like a hordes of people have less time to coordinate where they're running to compared to an individual. So it doesn't mean that just because everybody is doing something that they're used to, it's the correct thing to do. It doesn't mean just like how our ancestors lived, that's our capability. You have to consider that you are a new opportunity for the human interface to reveal itself. And what that means is that it's not that the world is just revealing something to us, it's that we are a revelation upon the world in the sense that nothing like us has existed. Do you understand? This is the bizarre point that the soul is the secret of God, for in some sense, such revelation can't be termed. It's the notion that man was one of God's most advanced creations, where all of creation bowed to, right? And now he's in the creation. And we're like, what kind of beings are we? What kind of souls do we have? Like, what is the primordial allegiance of our soul prior to the personalities that hide our true life? The advancement of civilization is upon all beings that enter civilization. Where I'm trying to go with this is that I opened my eyes to a reality, past, present, future, and it seemed that the missing puzzle piece was the future. And then I asked myself, how is all the knowledge of the present and the past contributing to the future? And then I realized that it's like we're still living in the era of a frightened animal reacting savagely or wanting to go hide in a cave. We haven't unleashed the era of advanced humanity, where human beings all around the world, one by one, as if light, the great light bulb renaissance of a new dimension, not a new dimension, of a new value system to what it means to be human. Do you understand that that means the story there that has been told to the world of what the world is, that you're human beings, a human civilization on earth, that is one view. And and there is, how do I explain it to you, that your eyes have a value beyond your understanding, that the position you're in is too unique, that the world doesn't make sense for a reason, that there is suffering actually for a reason. And but what why would the system admin allow a system where in some sense there is this sort of tornado of duality, this constant looping of night and day, good and bad, you know, freedom and enslavement. You know what I mean? It's like everything is looping. It's like inside a whirlwind of inner human ideology. We're trying to, in some sense, stabilize individually as an entity. It's like what is going on right now is actually so fascinating that I feel even honored to be able to speak about it. Do you understand? To me, ever since I got introduced to Carl Jung, what fascinated me was the idea of the unconscious. Now, I don't really care about Carl Jung's personality too much, right? But I want to say that in his words, he said something in the likes of like, unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And that sentence suddenly pierced a sort of like, it was as if like next level swordsmanship from my neural networks, right? Ultimately, everything comes down to what is present, and what is present is a spectrum, a hierarchy. A hierarchy means that if we look at an ant and we feel like a superior being, most likely there's a being looking at us feeling superior. I wouldn't be surprised about that, because systems of this nature tend to have users, mods, and a system admin, right? Now, if people tell me, "Hey, Mr. Within, you're saying that you believe in a God that is not limited to anything in the world, and but what about the Hindus? What about all the spiritual people connecting to shaped higher power in the world?" And I would say they're playing with mods. I did it too. And it's in Islam, it's shirk, and you must immediately just realize like the ignorance in the act and just reform, right? That's why I'm not spiritual, I'm religious. Religion means I don't know. The higher power is present here. I can't act like I know. I can't tell you I'm like, yo, this and that and whatever I want, because the world is simulated. It doesn't matter. Like, if ultimately it's like a simulated nature. We're here for some time in unique shapes and forms, only to wonder about what was truly here and what was actually the presence of the world. You see? Let me say it this way. If your ancestors were watching you right now, you would behave differently. I would behave differently. If people right now were watching me, it's going to affect my behavior, and I'll explain how, right, later. But where I'm going with this, and if the future generations were here, like I can visualize this, right? If they were here, what would they say? They would probably look at me and be like, look at this primitive human being in 2025, podcasting, sharing his biological, the fascination of his biological findings subjectively through a cyberspace medium. If after this life they ask me, did you fight a war in your life? And I'll be like, the only war that I've attempted to truly fight is the war of ignorance. And ignorance means there's something way beyond the value systems we currently have. You know, So if the future generations were watching me right now, I would say let's ante it up. Let's in some sense, go towards the most advanced possibility of this situation. What if all the human beings that have lived in the past there were watching me right now? What if all the human beings and beings in this world that are alive right now were watching me right now? What if all beings and humans in the future that would ever be born were watching me right now? And what if all the world and even the creator of the world was watching me right now? Right? That means if I had the ultimate stage, like I don't need to go on some podium. It's like by being conscious in the presence of this world, I have found the ultimate stage. Right? So what it means is the attention is on me. But what is this attention? It is the attention of the system admin, the attention of, the world, the attention of the species and the mods, attention of myself to myself. This is why life is kind of like a performance, not in front of others, in front of yourself. It's a sort of how your inner subjective models live ahead and the objectivity follows. You know, there's different states that the human being can attain. And something remarkable about humanity is its ability to archive reality. Why? Because reality is cyclical. Imagine the first human being on Earth, right, that suddenly experienced the first winter on Earth. It's as if they would wait the whole season, and when the next winter would come, they would make more observations. Then the next winter, more observations, more observations. What that means is it's cyclical. For me, it's not like a kind of gladiator kind of situation where one advanced human comes and shouts at like humanity, "Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?" And in some sense, trying to like assemble the most advanced human army to, in some sense, shift the civilization as far as it can, so the future generations can go further. My relationship with reality has become one of what is my honor and what am I standing in the presence of. It's kind of like, you understand what I mean? Your relationship as a simulation, as an effect, with the relationship with the original, that is the cause, is one where the effect has to accept it is an effect. I have to accept that this is what I have to work. This is my biological existence. This is the subjective domains of my perception. This is how far I can see into how humanity will shift its behavior if it was conscious of what it is truly in the presence of. If you suddenly realize you were, on a stage called the world, your performance matters beyond the ignorance of the mind and the sorrow of the heart. For me, I was like, yo, man, human being, tell yourself whatever story you want, but it is obvious in the geometry of the concept of the human that you have been designed for a specific purpose, as you notice many things in the world have. When it comes to human made inventions, most of them have a purpose. You know what I mean? So you look at the nature of a design of something, and then its design tells you its purpose. We look at the nature of the design of the human being, we notice a biological organism that is just like we have two eyes to see one moment. We have an outer external objective world. It's like we have one server that's that, right? We've joined, and the other server is our private inner life, and the inner life is hidden, and we this whole time we've been thinking we know people. And the fascinating thing is we can never know people because we can never know their inner life unless they communicate, and even if they communicate, how accurate was their communication? So I'm pretty much saying the title of the episode is like, what if the future generations were watching you right now? Imagine every time you threw something on the trash on the ground, like not only the animals were like, WTF, what are you doing? But in some sense, the future generations were judging you. You know, it's as if if you had an option of being judged by the past, to be judged by the present, and to be judged by the future. You know, I'd be like, yo, man, the past can never judge me because they don't know me. The present cannot judge me because they can never know me fully. The future can judge me in regards to how far I express. You understand? It's like a world where you gotta move in, but as you move in it, your view of the world shifts as well. Are we not the life of the world? Are we not an advanced, intelligent ability to engage reality? We are. You are an advanced technology. And what I'm doing is, as an advanced technology that has observed this advanced technology, has come to the conclusion that every person on earth has to climb out of their inner earth and come to the outer earth. And this is where you become a mature human, right? And when you're in the outer earth, you begin to see the mysteries multiplied. That means the person living in a cave, had only their problems to deal with. But when you live in a world, you cannot, not empathize with it. And once you see reality, you must care for it. So it's as if, like God, must the simulation end? Or in some sense, what is the heaven? What kind of heaven or hell does the world go to, right? And it's this awareness to this reality that the source code, because I am Muslim, the Holy Quran says that it's like there will come an ending. That means not only every soul will taste death, but it's just that even the world will die one day. And so when everything will one day break down, what did we do with what we had? And how did we truly feel our intelligence? That means, imagine if God had said, I am merciful, and God had said, I am the all provider. Do you understand? We You might be a 90-year-old man listening to this lecture, and I'll tell you, compared to the divine, you are a child. We are ignorant because our design is not has an awareness for its purpose. People may say, why does suffering exist? How would you know there's anything else beyond it if it didn't? How would we know what an advanced civilization would look like if civilization didn't look like this right now? And people are like, Mr. Within, are you roasting civilization right now? I'd be like, no, I'm just looking at how great it can be and why it is not. I think this way of thinking leads one automatically to advanced states of being. Why? Because the most advanced state of being is realizing first you are not God, and then realizing you are in within God's attention in the same way a politician may look at an ant on his shoe. But the relationship we have with the system admin is much more superior. It is one of an intelligent, graceful return. They in like if you notice, They say, like, the person comes up to the king and says, "Your grace." That means grace is bound to this entity. But what the Pharaoh, when Moses reminded him of the divine, was that man is not designed here to be a powerful being. Just like a hammer is not designed to do the job of a screwdriver, right? So man is not designed here to just be powerful. You might think that's the game in the outer realms, but man is here to notice, as just any intelligence anywhere that it finds itself would immediately, where am I? Am I right now inside? Am I right now standing in a physical existence? Am I right now being in awareness to my physical existence and all the other thoughts and subjectivity I have of it? I have an aware, like we are stationed in a position to be aware of the subject and the object at the same time, meaning we're neither, which makes the religious algorithm so absolutely correct that it is beyond measure. That means it's like you don't understand what the prophets did was that they solved the problems for the future that the futures will be in awe of. Do you understand? For me, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final messenger. To me, he is like the ultimate genius, right? But in Islam, we acknowledge that all the prophets, they were in some sense in God's favor, in God's protection, in God's view, in God's grace. They saw the advance when the others could not. And what it means to be a prophet is just being more aware than anybody else. But you don't know how aware you are unless you know the limits of your awareness. The limits of your awareness are found in the human system. That means if right now we had a value system, it would be divided between internal values and external values. The external values of the world are given by the world itself. That means we adjust to the external reality, but everything that is received by us by information is reciprocally being, in some sense, uh, shifted in accordance to the inner reality. So, what that means is, in front of your eyes, the world is dominating the self. Behind your eyes, your ego, yourself, is dominating the world. And you think that's your identity because we've managed to make it into a story through language. But we have to understand that there is a superiority here, that there is a higher power here. And the higher power means the greatest idea, because the greatest idea would lead to the greatest vision. So I, as a human being, had to choose stay in my own limited power, or in some sense bow to the limitless. For in some sense, what great acknowledgement does such a being deserve? Do you understand? When Muslims bow and they pray, that means, imagine you're going about your life and suddenly you found this one moment where the whole video game of life pauses and you are in the presence of your creator, you are in the presence of the ultimate, and in some sense you break down. That means, when it's a good mosque where every time people pray there in congregation, they all have tears in their eyes. Let me tell you why. Because that's what it feels like being in the presence of a higher power. It is higher and superior to all ideological, subjective constructs, man made or otherwise. It is superior to all objective existential constructs we find in reality. And what that means is that, what if the object and subject was distracting you from the original power? Because this object and subject were simulated. That means, unlike it's like, it's like you hear this idea that don't get tempted by sin, by the devil, by shaitan. Auzubillah shaitan rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. God is the ultimate origin and all knows it. Every cell, every atom knows it. Who knows that which has created it? It's as if they're like, you get to sin, by, obsessing over your desires, by your attention just being zooming in on your desires. And the question comes for a wondrous mind to be like, why do I have this desire? Why do I have this internal urge for reality to manifest this way? That means it's kind of like when you're in an unknown world, you kind of like look in the mirror and like, how do I have opinions on this? Right? It's an unknown, changing, dynamic world. It's not a snapshot to look at it for hours, but in some sense, it is a shifting. It's like a film, right? And we are actors in this film, of course, but the direction is not us. The director is not in the film. The system admin can do whatever it wants, but we can't do whatever we want. I mean, that's just obvious, you know? There are people right now, like I'm sitting in my car using my phone data to give this lecture on my laptop, and there's people in like private jets, never wondering about where they're flying to, where all reality is being piloted because the simulation is being piloted towards, in some sense, an ending. But the consciousness, the soul, is actually something I said in a previous lecture I was reading. It was this beautiful sentence that it's like how you live now carves the shape of your eternal life. So I want you for a moment right now, whoever you are, just for a moment, sit down and just for a second, just feel yourself as a being. And for a moment, close your eyes and then open them right away and feel as if you are in the presence of the ultimate. You're in the presence of, like, imagine right now the most advanced civilization existed, the most advanced self existed, the most advanced world existed, and the most advanced system admin was managing. Do you understand? It's like, would you rather, you know, stay in an empty room or wonder about what moves it all? Guys, I need a quick breather. I'll be back. Like, it's a good time for people to take a break. Yeah, I'll be back. And something to think about is, what is the roar of man into the eons to come? Okay, I'm back. All right. I'm pretty much trying to tell you that I've been wondering about this kind of thing, that like what sort of greater attention am I present in? Okay, what kind of attention is watching me? Like if I was an ant, what sort of being is watching me? Right? And the conclusion is ultimately a being that has no qualities in the world. It means nothing in what it has created. The creation cannot limit the creator. The creator can limitlessly do whatever it wants. And so we look at the design of man and we play our part as a species, and we have reached that historic moment in human civilization where human beings, it may be slow, but they are waking up to this notion that they have never, that their nationalism, their personality, their individualism of like a primitive being, that is one of intelligence, not just one of a collected set of thoughts that you think you are, that don't change unless you change. So guys, I have 10% battery on my laptop, but even if it ends, I could go back on my phone, or I'll probably end the talk by then. So it's fair to say maybe I have 10 minutes here. See, the whole idea of it is that if you were in the presence of something more than yourself, like other, how would you behave? Like, how would you behave if there was, if you were alone, starting point? How would you behave if there was one person in front of you? How would you behave if there were two people in front of you? How would you behave if there was like infinite people in front of you? Do you see where it's going? How would you behave if there was, for example, an alien in front of you? How would you behave if there was an advanced AI android in front of you? How would you behave if a time traveler was in front of you? How would you behave? Eventually, all of it is building up to what? How would you behave in the presence of the system admin? So it's like me feeling that, okay, the future generations are watching me and like Mr. Within, do something about 2025. I'm like, okay, I'm trying, you know? But it's like not, it's like me realizing that what is watching the world is the system admin that's beyond the world. The future generations are with the world watching us, and I am simultaneously watching all of them, as the system admin is also watching all of them, but based on a limited capacity. Right? That means I realize the most advanced form of spirituality is to actually pay attention to being human and realize how the human intelligence is occurring. You know what it means? It means if realities fit into a context, that means if you look at, like, if I say the word, the name Napoleon Bonaparte, the context is like back in the day France. Okay. If I say, like, for example, like Star Wars, the context is in the future. Do you understand? So what you understand is things have a context. It's not like an object has just a meaning by itself. It's like where the object is has the meaning. For example, an artist draws an artwork. It's like, okay, it has a value to itself, but when the artwork goes into the art gallery, it has a value to the whole structure, the art gallery. Do you understand? So I'm ultimately saying that even though I'm trying to answer the title of the episode by trying to explain to you, give you like a real sense in accordance to my inner realms of like how the future generations watching us can affect us, right? But deep down, I'm acknowledging that the system admin is watching all of it. And if I am a lower power and there's a higher power, I am curious to understand why. So and it's not like I want to go into the afterlife with questions, but it's in some sense with an admiration for what God has created, or in some sense in uh, fear. That means I want to leave this world. At least the last time I see it, I'm like, okay, love you, bye. You know, like one of those moments where you see reality and you're like, okay, we came this far, we existed this far. So to give you an idea, with how many percent battery? 8% battery. How the future generations would see us. We start with the simplest exercise. Imagine how your future self would see you right now. And to kind of give an answer, I would have to ask, like, how do who I am now sees who I was like last year? It's as if the present is being the future's past. So it's like right now we're being the memories of the future. Excuse me, we're being a memory for the future. I felt this. You know what it feels like if the future generations are watching you? It feels like they're looking at you and being like, do you just care for what was real to you, or do you care for the greatness of the reality of the legacy of the human species? That means, like back in the day, they had the idea that a warrior was a person going into battle, but every person is kind of like, whether they like it or not, a sort of warrior in the battle of their life. The battle of their life in regards to how there will come an ending. There's death. So I don't want to say we're kind of like the ego is battling the world all the time, but I want to say that it's like it's like regardless of how advanced become, I have to think about, like, the most the most advanced version of me would be in the most like it makes no sense to be advanced in an unadvanced world. So the most advanced version of us would be also based on the most advanced world. So I have to pretty much make 8 billion human beings advanced to be like, okay, I am advanced now. And this advancement means that see we are creatures that have had egos for a long time, and we have managed to play the ego's game in new ways. So it's as if egos were first fighting over power and control and who has the bigger stick. But now egos are all have realized the value of reality is the exploration, it's a discovery. There should be world exploration and agencies all around the world. We need to bring back the question. I mean, it's honestly like this. The idea of Mr. Within is just the archaic revival of that dude who looked at its species and said, "Yo, man, we're not like what's the most advanced we could be? We should wonder." So if the future generations were watching me right now, I'd be like, guys, look at your own future. What are you doing? No, I'm kidding. I'd be what I think I have done is that in these lectures, because I've commented on the future, there will be beings in the future who will have the privilege of seeing the destiny of my claims. And if my claims are accurate, let's say it's 50-50, they will get goosebumps of how the architectural model existed. Do you understand? That means because in 2025, I'm talking about the future. Okay. I'm talking about, let's say, I talk about it. I remember dedicating a book to this. It was like 3,600 years in the future, but that was a different view. Right now, for me, I try to find the original power to my world. I wonder how this original power powers the world. And I wonder about how human beings, all of them, will one day realize to be advanced means to give yourself the freedom to see how far you can go. Advanced doesn't mean we become cyborgs. Advanced doesn't mean like you have to pay a membership fee to keep parts of your brain active. You know what I mean? Advanced means what is noticing the most advanced power and wondering about an accessible relationship. The great work of the Prophet, peace be upon him, was simply to bring forth the establishing of the relationship of the individual with its creator. And it was so beyond, like, so to me, the Holy Quran is source code because it was so ahead of its time by by the mere need to pray 5 times a day. Like even scientists now can say, like in regards to hygiene, like that's something. Like you're washing your face like 5 times a day. Sorry, 15 times a day. That's what it means to be a Muslim, you know? And what that does to you is a constant resetting of man in accordance to original principle. In the Holy Quran, it is suggested that man is being tested by his deeds. That means there's a passage, I don't know it exactly, but it says God created life and death so man can be in some sense tested. We're under review within an incredibly fascinating divine surveillance state. And when you ask yourself, like, how do intelligent systems with intelligent nodes, let's say intelligent users, right, kind of like should function, I guess I'm pretty much saying that it's like any system requires a lower, higher dimension to it, right? So that there could be a relationship of an individual with the world. So for me, I've reached that point as a human being. I don't know what to call it, but it's like I'm just conscious, and it's something I know I've accepted that right now I'm just in this event, in this world event, and I am a self because I am specifically a body. And what is the relationship of this self that I am with everything else it's considering itself to be separate from? It's like I need to consider that I'm different than all of you to be an individual, but at the same time, the purpose of the individual is to advance the collective. So the individual has to be like, I also have to acknowledge everybody else. How far can true advancement go? Wonder about this. For me, God is the most advanced state, it's the original, and we're all simulated here. So it's like a future simulation looks at a past simulation and judges it. I'm like, buddy, look at the higher power. And the cool thing is, man, by being the lower power, can have a relationship with the higher power, which means that if consciousness is ultimately basing itself on units of its understanding, it will go into a space of immeasurable understanding. And that understanding is equivalent in like, imagine somebody runs into like a room and realizing that room is under an administration system. So for me, when I open my eyes, when I see, for example, the physical world, that's an existential system, you know. But but when I wonder what moves this existential system, it is the divine system. But the divine system is unknowable to man. And there's a specific reason. There's a specific reason why in the Holy Quran it says the soul is the secret of God. And there's a specific reason why man is made to look at the afterlife, to wonder about what's coming more than just what, what else it could be in the past. Anyways, again, I'll say this, one of the coolest sentences I've heard recently, I discovered in a previous talk. It's not from me, but it was an incredible sentence. It was like from AI giving an answer. And it said, it was something in the lines of like, how you live now is carving the shape of your eternity, of your eternal life. And that to me was so profound, because suddenly it's whatever goodness and badness I've considered to myself is insignificant in the presence of the Almighty, in the presence of God. See, God is not uh, limited to the system, but what happens in the system gives you the sense of like, okay, I'm in the present, I'm in the attention of the higher power. So how is the lower power moving in accordance and being affected by the higher power? Ultimately, you realize the limitations of man. And then you become fascinated by our situation here. And our situation is just, you start from a neutral analysis, wondering about pretty much any strategist's vision, which, what do I do with what do I have while I have it? And you're listening to someone who's saying, have an advanced relationship with the system admin, have an advanced fascination for the world, have an advanced relationship with yourself, and have an advanced relationship with your species. Like, let me give you a vibe of like how the future generations would look at us. They may look at us in the future and be like, yo man, these human beings are so primitive. They think they're from like that country and this country, right? They think they're like their names and stories, how they've created themselves as characters in a story. And then the future generations are going to look at us and like, look at these guys, like, like a cat like playing with an empty box. And they'll be like, they haven't realized they are one species. It's like in an advanced civilization in the news, you would hear it's as if for the greatness and advancement of humanity. You would turn on the news and it would be a channel that's just showing you every moment this advance, this advance, this advance, this advance. And imagine there was a channel you could go to and see like, okay, how all the things that were not advanced. But the idea is an advanced civilization, the momentum for an advanced civilization is generated where in some sense we make more efficient decisions compared to inefficient ones, and the efficient ones is constantly giving our species a better shot at it, solving the problem of reality in honor of the system admin, in honor of this marvelous simulated world, in honor of all the beings and creatures and mods, and specifically in honor of the human species. You might be someone who might be like thinking your value is nothing, but you are a member of the human species. You are like all human beings are rare because they have different DNA and conditioning, which means they have different perspectives on reality. You can't kind of tell, like if a room filled with imagine like being a teacher. Like if I was a teacher of a classroom, I'd go in the classroom and I'd be like, hey kids, you each have your own different DNA. You each are created to in some sense see different views on reality, and it's up to you to figure out the value of your reality by in some sense at first beginning to compare reality and the types of it, and then eventually realizing that it's an actualization of your attention to the meaning of it all. And sorry, not to just the meaning of it all, to the presence of it all. Right, that means is what is the conclusion of the ultimate and most advanced state of being. And I, as a Muslim dance, I have the answer, an answer to be comfortable with, which is that it all returns to the system admin. So after this reality I've experienced, it's like I'm going to the in the presence of the one who created it, and then to truly see what value did the effort of my life have, and in some sense what did I truly deserve regardless of my how my ego expected it. To understand, to be in the presence of the higher power is to break down in the realization of how limited we are. Anyways, thank you for listening. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. A'udhu billah shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one, from unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. All that exists in creation praises the system admin by the nature of remembering its original return. Its return to the original. Rabbil Firli, may God forgive me. May God forgive the species for all the sins that it is